Put your palm flat against a wall that was printed by a machine. It is cool. It is gritty. You can feel the ridges under your fingers, 1 inch tall, stacked one on the next, from the floor to the ceiling. That is what a printed house feels like. Ridges, layers, mortar laid in a continuous ribbon by a machine on rails while a man stood in the yard and watched. 600 square feet, 24 hours. And here is the number everybody repeats, $500. Now let me be honest before I go one sentence further, because I would rather be trustworthy than impressive. That number is wrong. The real printed houses, the ones built in Austin by Icon and the nonprofit New Story, cost about $10,000 a piece when they started, and the target price with volume was $4,000, not $500. I will not repeat a figure I know to be false just because it makes my case sound better. But here is what is true, and it is the part nobody says out loud. Of that $4,000, the mortar itself, the actual material that becomes the wall, runs about $500 for a small structure. 500. Everything above that number is the machine, the crew that runs the machine, the software, the transport, and the company that owns it. The wall costs $500. The robot costs the rest. And my people have been stacking that same wall by hand for 4 generations without a single machine. My name is Emil. I come from a stone and mortar building community in the hill country of central Texas, descended from German masons whose limestone buildings are still standing after 160 years. I am 65 years old. I have been laying up walls by hand for 47 of those years. Over 90 structures, not one has cracked at the base. We call the method coursing up. You lay a course, you let it set, you lay the next on top. That is all a 3D printer does. It courses up. It just does it faster and charges you for the privilege. I call people who believe a wall must be poured into forms by a crew with a truck foreman poor folks, and I do not mean it unkindly, but a foreman poor person hears printed house and thinks the miracle is the printer. The miracle is that a wall can be built one narrow layer at a time by anything, a robot or a trowel, and it will stand for a century either way. By the end of this, you will know exactly what those printed walls are made of, what the material costs, how to lay the same wall yourself with a $5 tool, and why nobody has told you that the expensive part of a cheap house is the thing doing the work rather than the work itself. And I am going to tell you the part that should make you uneasy. Do not look away. Let me start with what most folks get wrong. Most people think a printed house is made of some space-age material. It is not. It is mortar, fine sand, Portland cement, water, and a plasticizer. The mix does one thing ordinary concrete cannot. It is wet enough to squeeze from a nozzle and stiff enough to hold its shape the instant it lands, so the next layer goes on without slumping. There is a technical term for this. Engineers call it a thixotropic mix. That is a mouthful and I never use it. It means a mix that flows when you push it and stands still when you stop. Toothpaste does this. Wet clay does this. And so does a properly proportioned sand and cement mortar, which masons have known since the Romans laid up walls 2,000 years ago. The printer did not invent the material. It automated the hand. Now here is the hard fork, and if you get this wrong, your wall will slump into a pile of gray mud, and you will decide the whole idea was foolish. You need mortar mix, not concrete mix. They sit side by side on the same shelf, and the bags look nearly identical. Concrete mix contains gravel, large aggregate, stones up to 3/4 of an inch. Gravel makes concrete strong in a thick poured slab, and it makes it useless in a thin stacked wall, because the stones will not hold an edge and the layer collapses under the next one. Mortar mix is fine sand and cement with no gravel at all. It holds an edge. It stacks. It sets in 20 to 30 minutes. Read the bag. If the word gravel or aggregate appears, put it back. That single mistake is why people watch a video, try this in the yard, and quit by lunch. Here is your list. Mortar mix, 60-pound bags, $5 to $8 each from the concrete aisle of any hardware store. A small structure takes 60 to 80 bags, so $400 to $500 total. One mortar hawk and trowel set, $12 to $18. Two 10-foot lengths of quarter-inch rebar per corner for vertical reinforcement, $4 each. One mixing tub and a hoe, $20. Total material cost for a small single-room structure comes in right around $550. That is the honest number. Here is how you course up, in the order I do it. Step 1, 1 day. Level and compact your ground and pour a simple footing, a trench 6 inches deep and 12 inches wide filled with concrete mix. Let it cure overnight. Step 2, mixing, about 10 minutes per batch. 2 bags of mortar to about 1.5 gallons of water in the tub. Pull the hoe through it until it holds a ridge when you draw a line through it with the handle. If the ridge slumps, add powder. If it crumbles, add a splash. Step 3, laying, about 2 hours per course. Set your string line. Lay a ribbon of mortar 6 inches wide and 2 inches tall along the line. Smooth the top flat with the trowel. Walk the wall. When you reach the start again, the first section has set enough to take the next layer. Step 4, repeat. A single room wall 7 feet tall is about 40 courses. 2 people can lay 6 to 8 courses a day. 6 days of work. Now listen closely, because this is where most people go wrong and it will cost you the whole wall. Do not lay a course on a dry one. Mist the previous course with water from a spray bottle right before you lay the next. A dry course sucks the water out of the fresh mortar in seconds, the new layer cures too fast, and the bond between the two never forms. You get a wall of loose pancakes instead of a wall. A $3 spray bottle is the difference between a structure and a stack. For scaling, one crew of 4 can course up 3 small structures at once by rotating between them, laying on the first while the second and third set. Every rebar rod goes in vertically at each corner and every 4 feet, driven into the wet mortar as you build. That is your reinforcement, and it costs $4 a rod. Now let me be honest about limits. This wall is not a printed house, and I will not claim it is. It is slower. 6 days instead of 24 hours. The layers will not be as even, and you will see your hand in the work. In freezing weather, mortar will not cure. In heavy rain, the fresh courses wash. And you still need a roof, another $300 to $500 in lumber and metal panel. So the honest all-in figure is around $1,000, not $500, and anybody telling you otherwise is repeating something they never checked. The safety rule is simple, and I mean it. Wet mortar is caustic. It contains lime, and lime burns skin over long contact without hurting at first, so you do not notice until the damage is done. Wear gloves. Rinse your arms after every session. Never kneel in fresh mortar. Now you are thinking, an inspector will never approve this. In many places you are right. Check your county. Under 120 square feet, most do not require a permit for an accessory structure. Over that, you will need engineering. That is real, and I will not pretend around it. Now I want to take a moment because this is the part that matters. Follow the money. A Vulcan printer costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. Trained crew runs it, a software license drives it, a transport truck moves it, an engineering firm certifies the mix. Each of those is a company with an invoice. The mortar in the wall costs $500. Nobody has ever raised venture capital to sell you a trowel. There is no conspiracy here. There is simply nothing to sell in the version where a person mixes a tub of mortar and lays it up with their own hands. So that version is never in the press release and never in the grant application and never in the article you read. You did not overlook this. It was never put in front of you. My grandfather was the one who taught me to course up. He built a smokehouse when he was 22 that is still standing behind my cousin's place. He had a way of drawing his thumb across the top of a fresh course to feel whether it had taken its set, and I still do it, and I still cannot explain it in words. He told me once, the machine is never the thing. The wall is the thing. A wall does not know whether a man or a robot laid it. It only knows whether the mortar was right and the hand was steady. An elder in our community, a woman named Hattie, said it plainer. She said, they will always sell you the tool and tell you the tool was the miracle. The miracle was always the material and the willingness. Here is what I want you to do this week. Go to any hardware store. Walk to the concrete aisle. Read the bags until you find mortar mix with no gravel listed. Buy 4 bags, a trowel, and a spray bottle. Mix one batch. Lay a ribbon 2 inches tall and 3 feet long on a scrap of plywood in your yard. Wait 30 minutes. Missed it. Lay another on top. Come back tomorrow and try to pull them apart. Your total cost is under $40 and your total time is under an hour. And when those 2 layers will not separate in your hands, you will understand something that no press release about robots has ever told you. That the wall was never the hard part. Tell me in the comments. Have you ever seen a 3D printed house in person? Have you ever laid mortar with your own hands? And if you heard the $500 figure before today, where did you hear it? I read every reply, and it is your answers that keep me mixing and coming back here. Next time I am going to show you how to lay a domed roof over a coursed wall using nothing but a center pole, a length of string, and the same mortar mix. 3 things, under $60, and one angle trick my grandfather used that makes the dome hold itself up before the mortar even sets. That is next week. Keep your mix stiff, keep your courses wet, and remember, everything you need to build was already known by the people who worked with their hat.